Good morning from the University of the Philippines Open University. Welcome to this month's Let's Talk It Over series hybrid seminar entitled One Health, One ASEAN, Unifying Health for People, Animals, and Ecosystems. I am Janelle Ebron from the Faculty of Management and Development Studies, and I will be your host for today's LTIO. We are currently live at the audiovisual room at the UPOU headquarters and via live stream at the UPOU networks, UPOU Facebook page, and the University of the Philippines Open University YouTube channel. Now, to formally open this program, let us watch this video by the Dean of the Faculty of Management and Development Studies, Dr. Joanne V. Serrano.
Isang maalab at mapagpalayang araw sa inyong lahat. It is my honor to welcome everyone to this Let's Talk It Over series. Today's event is just one of a series of discussions and dialogue focusing on sustainable development goals. The Let's Talk It Over, or LTIO series, has been a platform of knowledge dissemination and community engagement, exemplifying FMDS dedication in making education open and accessible to all. As the Faculty of Study, which is composed of a collective of various disciplines spanning from the health to the environment to management and to the development fields, FMDS deals with policy, program, and development concerns related to environment and natural resources management, land valuation, research and development, nursing, international health, social work, public management, entrepreneurship, and sustainability studies. Through the LTIO, FMDS is able to maximize the affordances of technology to bridge the gap between knowledge and those who seek it. This hybrid seminar is a testament to our commitment to inclusivity as we bring together both our physical and virtual communities to engage in meaningful conversations that transcend geographical boundaries. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, serve as our source of inspiration, and through initiatives like LTIO, we aim to empower both the general public and our FMDS students to contribute meaningfully to these global initiatives and objectives. As we embark on this journey of knowledge sharing and collaboration, I encourage you to actively participate, ask questions, and engage with our distinguished resource speakers and fellow attendees. Together, we can be catalysts for social change and drive the transformation necessary for a more sustainable and inclusive future. Once again, welcome to the LTIO Series Hybrid Seminar. Let's engage, learn, and inspire each other as we explore sustainable solutions for our communities. Thank you very much and magandang araw sa inyong lahat.
Dr. Serrano, as we are about to begin our talks, allow me to remind the audience on-site and online to please start preparing your questions. You may write them down, jot them down while listening to the talks. You will be given a portion later to ask your questions during the Q&A session. At this juncture, we can now proceed with the presentations. It is my pleasure to introduce our first resource speaker. Mr. Carl Abelard Villegas is an assistant professor under the Faculty of Management and Development Studies of UPOU, teaching environmental courses. He is a professional forester, having completed his Bachelor of Science in Forestry degree at the University of the Philippines, Los Baños. He also obtained his Master of Science in Resource Management at the University of Edinburgh. Currently, he is a member of the Master of Innovation and Business class of 2024 under the Asian Institute of Management. His research areas focus on sustainable forest management, watershed development and environmental management, biodiversity conservation, nature-based solutions, forest governance, and other related disciplines. He has previously worked with the Picard DOST supervising R&D in environmental management, as well as a researcher in the World Agroforestry Center and Leiden University. He has also served as a consultant to USAID, Global Affairs Canada, European Union Delegation Philippines, including international organizations such as the ASEAN Center for Biodiversity, as the country officer on One Health. He also served in the Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, or FAO. He is an advocate of native forestries, focusing on forest production and ecosystem services provided by trees. During his free time, he loves gardening and farming forest trees and crops. As a way of realizing his vision of sustainable forest management and putting this into practice, he has established a startup forest nursery known as the Sakabuhayan Forest Services. To talk us through the role of the environment sector in One Health, including implications in sustainability, let us all welcome Forester Carl Abelard Villegas.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Janelle, for the warm introduction. So for this purpose of this seminar, I have changed the title and modified it into the role of the environment sector in One Health, including the implications for sustainability. So this would be one of the pioneering seminars under the Let's Talk It Over. Okay. Okay, just to give you a brief introduction. So an overview of what we have experienced in the past, way back 2020. So we all know that the COVID-19 pandemic highlighted the importance of biodiversity conservation in curbing the spread of emerging infectious and zoonotic diseases. It also emphasized the need to empower professionals in natural resources management and the environment sector. One Health has traditionally focused on public health and veterinary fields for addressing zoonotic diseases, antimicrobial resistance, including food safety. But the environment sector's involvement is still evolving. What is One Health approach? It is an approach to designing and implementing the programs, policies, legislation, including research across sectors which communicate and work together to achieve better public health outcomes. It is an interdisciplinary and cross-sector approach that seeks to holistically examine the interrelatedness among human, environment, or the ecosystem health, including wildlife. So we can see the interactions of the different sectors of One Health in the diagram. So this involves interventions of communication, coordination among various agencies, capacity building, and collaboration is very important to form synergy. So this definition of One Health is based on the World Health Organization. So we go now to the definition of One Health. One Health aims to sustainably balance and optimize the health of people, animals, including wildlife and livestock, and the ecosystems they live in. It recognizes the health of these interacting elements in the environment, including our domestic animals, the plants in the wider environment, and the environment they live in. It also affects the food we eat, the air we breathe, and the water we drink. In December 2021, a One Health high-level expert panel on the World Health Organization defined One Health to include wildlife and ecosystems, and the approach should be able to tackle threats to health and the ecosystems. The HHLEP new definition recognizes the health of humans, domestic and wild animals, plants, and the wider environment, including ecosystems, are closely linked and interdependent. So why One Health? There is a need to mobilize multiple sectors, the disciplines and communities at varying levels of society to work together to foster well-being and tackle threats to health and ecosystems. So we should not be working in silos, but we should work all together in order to approach the damages of the zoonotic diseases brought to the ecosystem and to humankind. So we can see the various elements, the drivers of the environment, which include the ecosystem damage and biodiversity loss, intensive agriculture, intensive animal production, including poverty and migration, especially in the rural countryside, urbanization and globalization, as well as pollution. So we all recall the pollution that was made in Mindoro because of the oil spill. So these are the increased global interactions and the human-animal environmental interface. So we can see in the yellow box, these are the various zoonotic diseases that include SARS, H1N1, the avian influenza, Ebola, Zika, and the SARS, or the COVID-19. Why is a One Health approach needed in the region? You can see in this diagram. So there are different regions in Asia that include Southern Asia, Eastern Asia, Eastern Asia that includes the Philippines and Oceania. So you can see that in Southern Asia, there is a huge population that can be impacted by zoonotic diseases. And there are also the environmental impacts of food production, which further causes the decline in the biodiversity. So the terrestrial species, as well as the freshwater species, including the marine species, would be impacted by the environmental impacts of food production. So these are the reports from the Convention of Biological Diversity, including reports from the World Wildlife Fund Living Planet report. Asia is a hotspot for zoonotic diseases. These are the diseases that transmit between people and animals. Asia is a hotspot due to high human population density, high livestock density and production systems, the abundance of wildlife, the high incidence of fragmentation of habitats, including land use changes and deforestation. There's also an increased risk due to increased contact rates between people, wildlife, and livestock. So we all know that in Asian region, we also harvest wildlife from the environment, from the natural environment. And these are complex issues requiring cross-sectoral approaches that address threats to health and ecosystems. So these are the various regions which have high occurrence of zoonotic diseases and also overlap with the high species occurrence. There are also economic impact of the infectious diseases. So you will see in the diagram, there are impacts for livestock and livelihoods, the food, nutrition, security. So we all know that food security is very important to humankind. There are also the disease also impacts on the wildlife populations, including tourism, impacts on the food security of subsistence communities, in the marginalized uplands as well as in the urban areas. Deforestation, forest fragmentation, and disturbance. These form links to zoonosis. So we have the habitat disturbance, encroachment, and extractive industries like mining. This increased direct human-wildlife and human-wildlife livestock contact rates, causing spillover events. The landscapes are also converted from natural to urban or agricultural, as well as human-managed ecosystems, attract rodents and bats, which are known to host diseases transmissible to human beings. No? Deforestation also contributes to huge biodiversity extinctions. There are fewer species to buffer and absorb diseases. The human are more likely to absorb the spillover threat. No? The fragmented forests also attract fruit bats, no? which carry many potential pathogens. So when we continue to degrade our forests or deforest our uplands, this causes habitat fragmentation across the landscape, which will eventually impact on the various biodiversity, causing extinction loss as well as disturbance to its natural population and viability. Deforestation hence increases vector-borne diseases. Every 1% of forest cut per year, malaria cases increases 23%. So just imagine if you have a patch of land, no, converted into a subdivision or a built-up area, then slowly or gradually you will be impacting that particular land, which are habitats of snakes, to have the wildlife, which will eventually go to the human habitation areas. No? You can see also in this diagram the zoonotic diseases due to the increased contact rates. What factors are increasing zoonosis emergence? These are diseases transmitted from animals to human, one of which is deforestation and other land use changes, the antimicrobial resistance, and the intensified agriculture and livestock production in order to increase food security, illegal and poorly regulated wildlife trade. And this is very prevalent, especially wildlife coming from the rural areas going into the urban areas as pets. And of course, we all know that climate change has a high impact on habitat disturbance. So what is AMR? Antimicrobial resistance. It refers to the ability of microorganisms, that includes bacteria, viruses, fungi, and parasites, to evolve and become resistant to the drugs that were previously effective at treating infections they have caused. This resistance makes the infections more difficult to treat, leading to longer durations of illnesses, increasing healthcare costs, and in some cases, higher mortality rates. These are the responses that we have undertaken. We have the surveillance and outbreak response, but One Health has primarily focused on zoonotic disease with surveillance and outbreak response. This involves interactions from the government ministries responsible for public health and the veterinary services. So we need to undertake detection, which is surveillance, as well as in responding to the outbreak response. Because of the existing spillover that transmit from the wildlife and animals going to the human beings or to the population. Also, we have to look into the prevention aspect. One Health has yet to prioritize the intervention needed to prevent threats to health in ecosystems. These interventions are much further upstream along the time scale. The interventions needed from the environment ministries of forestry, wildlife, and natural resource management and environment. For the case of the Philippines, these are all embodied in one department, the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. This is also subsumed under Track 6 objective to protect and restore biodiversity, prevent the degradation of ecosystems and the wider environment, to jointly support for health of people, animals, plants and ecosystems, supporting sustainable development. Globally, there are implementation and gaps, and later on, I would focus on the country level. So we are discussing at this point in terms of global and regional level. So there's a focus on zoonotic diseases transmitted between people and animals, AMR, including food safety. One Health has not adequately engaged the environment sector at this juncture, and the departments or ministries responsible for which, as I mentioned earlier, there's also lack of focus on preventing biodiversity loss and environmental degradation. There's also lack of focus on upstream interventions needed to prevent disease spillover. And there's no established in-service training program for the environment professionals which contribute to One Health. We also need to undertake program for environment professionals who play a small role, if any, in One Health, coordination mechanisms, setting national One Health priorities, or implementing programs and activities in a regional or national scale. We have a new direction for One Health. So the One Health high-level expert panel with a new definition of One Health. The approach aims to tackle threats to health and ecosystems. The quadripartite joint plan of action was organized. This include the Food and Agriculture Organization, United Nations Environment Program, World Health Organizations, as well as the World Organization for Animal Health. The quadripartite used to be the tripartite, but one organization, one UN organization was added. So we also need to enable countries to advance and scale up One Health to manage threats to humans, animals, and the environment. And also, we cannot discount climate change. So the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change produced a special report about the impacts of global warming and its relation to One Health. The Environment and Health Action Track also addresses One Health gaps, and also there was a launching of the multilateral One Health initiatives and programs. This needed to identify the in-service training for environment and natural resource sector professionals. A global plan of action on One Health was also established, which looked into the urgent need for reassessment and transformative change with respect to interactions between human, animals, and the environment. This needed to better integrate the environment into One Health, the need to better understand the root causes and drivers of disease emergence and impacts of biodiversity loss and environmental degradation. A framework for action was followed suit. This included a set of activities collaboratively offered by the quadripartite. This was the United Nations Environment Program, which was added to the body. It enabled countries to advance and scale up One Health to manage threats to human, animals, and the environment. So this is the global plan of action for One Health with a vision of a world better able to prevent, predict, detect, and respond to the threats and improve the health of humans, animals, plants, and environment. So these are the keywords: humans, animals, plants, and environment. And the animals include also the wildlife and the domestic animals, while contributing to sustainable development. So the global plan of action you have there in the diagram, the One Health Joint Plan of Action. The quadripartite joint plan of action. This included zoonosis, AMR, food safety, and the impacts of biodiversity loss and environmental degradation on health. This also enables countries to advance and scale up One Health to manage threat to health, ecosystem, and environment. So there has been a huge effort in the regional and global level in order to address the One Health issue brought about by the incidence of the COVID pandemic. Even before the occurrence of the COVID, we also have other zoonotic diseases that has occurred in the past, like H1N1, bird flu virus, Ebola, and the like. Also, don't forget about rabies. This is also one of the diseases under zoonosis. No? So we also have the ASEAN Comprehensive Recovery Framework. So the ASEAN is also very active in this respect with their broad strategy 5, advancing towards a more sustainable and resilient future. This promotes nature-based solutions to increase the region's resilience towards pandemics. It also pursues a pro-poor, inclusive, gender, culture, and climate-responsive approach to recovery and strengthen integrated frameworks to address governance gaps in the rural-urban interface, as well as this cross-sectoral and intersectoral cooperation at the ASEAN level. So you will see there in the diagram. So action track 6, these are the different objectives. No? Protect, restore, and prevent the degradation of ecosystems in the wider environment. Mainstream the environment to One Health approach. Integrate environmental knowledge, data, and evidence in One Health decision making. And create an interoperable One Health academic and in-service training program for environment, the health, the medical, agriculture, and the veterinary sector, and natural resources professionals. You will see in the picture, this is a river in Oriental Mindoro with a buffer of the trees that protects it from flooding. So it's also a nature-based solutions that is also one of the strategies that can also support a One Health approach. So I will not go into that. This is the track 6. No? Create an interoperable One Health academic in-service training program for environment, medical, agriculture, and veterinary sector professionals. So in the past, we have been very active focusing on medical health and veterinary health, and now we are looking now into the role of the environment sector. So very recently, in May, there was the ASEAN Leaders Declaration on One Health, which was attended as well as the ASEAN Center for Biodiversity. And as ASEAN member states, there are 10. Brunei Darussalam, Philippines, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Thailand, Myanmar, Cambodia, and all the rest of the 10 ASEAN member states. So they declared the commitment on pursuing One Health initiative. Of course, we could not disregard the importance of its contribution to achieving the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Directly, it connects with good health and well-being, SDG 3, life below water, SDG 14, life on land, SDG 15. We also have indirectly we have the collaboration, and definitely we also have SDG 13, which focuses on climate action. So let me go now zero in to the country efforts on One Health coordination mechanism in the Philippines. So in the national level, we have a policy on One Health implementation, Administrative Order 10, series of 2011. So we have already these initiatives about One Health approach. No? We created the Philippine Interagency Committee on Zoonosis, or the PhilCZ. These are jointly being implemented by the Department of Health, Department of Agriculture, and the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. This is embodied in a joint department administrative order which operationalizes the PhilCZ, which was later signed in 2020, defining the roles and responsibilities of each department. A national strategy and action plan was also established, which was developed in 2016 for a 5-year period. Activities included focus on the prevention and control of zoonosis, prioritized by each agency. So what are the environment sector efforts in One Health Philippines? We have the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, the DNR, is the main agency responsible for the conservation, management, development, and proper use of the country's environment and natural resources. So for this purpose, the Biodiversity Management Bureau has been authorized to lead in One Health, together with Ecosystems Research and Development Bureau and the Environmental Management Bureau, which focuses primarily on waste and pollution. The Wildlife Disease Surveillance Conceptual Framework was also developed in 2018. This aims to detect the potential presence and diversity of microorganisms, pathogens among certain wild animals, in understanding the role of these animals in genesis, transmission, and spread of emerging infectious diseases. Furthermore, this include the active and passive surveillance of zoonotic diseases jointly conducted by DA, the Bureau of Animal Industry, and the Department of Health. While the passive surveillance of zoonotic diseases is conducted by DNR, Biodiversity Management Bureau, on wildlife in coordination with the Bureau of Animal Industry of DA. The surveillance is similarly being conducted in several bird sanctuaries by DNR field offices in coordination with the regional animal disease diagnostic laboratories. Also, the Avian Influenza Protection Plan was also developed by DA-BI, which included provisions on dealing with wild birds. A migratory bird sanctuary within the metro has developed a local avian influenza preparedness plan. So for everyone's information, because we have seasonally the migration of birds coming from various regions across this boundary, so we have to be very careful because this can also occur through natural means as well as human means. Then this can be brought about by human-related factors. No? DNR has also designated the wildlife enforcement officers who work on the prevention and control of zoonosis through illegal wildlife trade. No? The WEOs coordinate with RADDL for the conduct of health assessment on confiscated animals. So the task of these wildlife enforcement officers, they make sure to monitor the trade of illegal wildlife, no? Because there are wildlife listed under the Convention to International Trade in Endangered Species which could not be harvested or collected from the wild. So you can find them, some of these animals, sold in pet shops in Manila, like Cartimar, no? So and Arranque Market. No? So they make sure that these are not good. Of course, this originated right from the source itself, from the natural forest, which later on be brought to the urban centers. The wildlife tourism advisories are also issued as necessary, like bird watching and cave spelunking. So these are downloaded in the regional offices and local DNR offices, focusing as well as on other tourism and ecotourism areas in the country. So in the center picture, so this is one of my photos. No? So this is in Nauhan Lake. So you have a fisherman. And these birds are naturally thriving in the area, feeding. But there's a smooth interaction. No, there is no collection of the birds in the area. No? And these are the fish pens. No? Because the Nauhan Lake, Oriental Mindoro, is also being utilized as fish pen for the fishermen. But we must make sure to maintain the integrity of the Nauhan Lake. It is a national park under protected areas. For the leadership and management roles in One Health approach, so aside from DNR, as I mentioned earlier, the Department of Health focuses on human concerns. This may involve other agencies, organizations as necessary. The Research Institute for Tropical Medicine, the Bureau of Quarantine of DA, as well as the special medical associations. The Department of Agriculture focuses on domestic animals and livestock concerns, may involve other agencies or organizations that include the National Meat Inspection Services, the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, BIFAR, including medical associations, and the quadripartite organizations. They have been supporting countries to promote a multi-sectoral and collaborative approach in addressing issues related to food safety, zoonosis, antimicrobial resistance, including threats to human-animal ecosystem interface. Mentioned earlier, the PhilCZ, this committee aims to develop, update, and recommend policies, guidelines, and plans of action on prevention control of zoonotic diseases, to recommend areas for research which will serve as basis for policies, guidelines, and plans of action. And we cannot disregard the involvement of the community. That includes the non-government organizations, environment organizations, the civil society, including the community-based organizations, the World Organization for Animal Health, the ASEAN Center for Biodiversity. The local government units have very important roles in order to ensure the One Health approach, the Municipal Agricultural Officer, the MENDO, the Municipal Environment Natural Resource Officer, as well as the Planning Officer of the LGU. The academe plays a very important role. No? We have active interventions as of the moment by UP Los Baños, Program for Zoonotic Diseases, UP Manila, the Philippine Genome Center, focusing on human health. We also have the St. Luke's Medical Center College of Medicine, which looks into the capacity building of various professionals, and also the Philohan, Philippine Association for One Health University Network that includes a consortium of various universities in the country. And I think we should also, UP Open University should also look into becoming a member under this network. So what has been the One Health approach interventions in the country? So there was a national bridging workshop which was held in 2022. International Health Regulations, Philippine Veterinary. I forgot about the S, maybe Dr. Bando can explain later on. This reviewed, the workshop was able to review and update the National Strategic Action Plan by the PhilCZ and also institute a national roadmap. No? This increased awareness campaigns on One Health. This National Bridging Workshop was facilitated by the Food and Agriculture Organization, World Health Organization, and the World Organization of Animal Health. There was also a recent project that was completed, which was called the Mainstreaming Biodiversity to One Health Capacity Development Project. This is a collaborative project between FAO, ASEAN Center for Biodiversity, and the DNR through the Biodiversity Management Bureau, the aim of which is to come up in developing a field training program in wildlife ecosystems, biodiversity, and environment, or they call the FTP WEBI. This included a series of national activities which undertook an environmental stakeholder mapping exercise, the data needs assessment exercise focusing on the different elements of One Health ecosystem, One Health approach, biodiversity, and later on also looking into the skills gap and human resources analysis focusing particularly on the environment sector, which is the DNR. UP Open University has also participated in this intervention by the ACB. There was also a training on the concepts of One Health, looking into the zoonosis and disease surveillance conducted early this year. There was a need to conduct laboratory staff capacitation that capacity staff on sample collection, proper responses to disease events, risk assessment, and management. And the Philohan, the Philippine One Health University Network. This covered Philippine universities which aim to develop the future generation of skillful and professional members of the One Health workforce in the Philippines. No? Includes both health and the environment professionals, no? And also the veterinary services professionals. And there's also the Next Generation One Health Philippines, led by the St. Luke's Medical Center. This is also a capacity building program of aspiring scholars and practitioners to become future leaders using the One Health approach with the purpose of preventing future pandemic. These are some of the lists of relevant policies and measures. So you have the mandate of BAI, dangerous communicable diseases, the Animal Welfare Act, under the DNR, the Wildlife Resources Conservation and Protection Act, Quarantine Act, the Meat Inspection Code, and all the rest of the list goes. No, these are some of the key policies. No. So during the ACB activities, no, which I was previously involved with, no, so we conducted a series of interventions, and one of which is the environmental stakeholder mapping and the data needs assessment. So during this activity, we were able to generate what are the important wildlife environment threats that were identified by the various environmental stakeholders during the event. No? And these are, one of which is the lack of awareness among the general public on biodiversity, which will be helpful in determining the consequences of its decline. There's also the land use change and conversion driven by urbanization and agricultural expansion. The rapid urban development resulting to habitat fragmentation. There also the conflicting policies at different levels of governance from the national, sub-local, and local level. Encroachment into natural habitats by human settlements, agriculture, and infrastructure development. So we have protected areas under the Philippine laws, no? The NIPAS, but within these protected areas, there is an overlapping 26 million upland people living in the protected areas. And these upland people are, at times, they also implement agricultural activities, no? And also seasonally, they also harvest wildlife from the natural habitat. No? Well, the risk that that is quite worth considering is the encroachment further or damaging the natural habitats of our wildlife, which will eventually cause unintended consequences like the transmittal of the zoonotic diseases from wildlife to animals. So we should be very careful on considering the interaction between human and wildlife interface in the wider environment or the natural habitat or the forests they live in. We have the weak law enforcement allowing illegal activities like wildlife poaching, timber poaching, and also illegal logging. There are also the lack of baseline assessments and research about invasive alien species. The invasive alien species, they occupy the natural habitat and sometimes they dominate over, the invasive aliens dominate over the natural proliferation of our native species. No? Extractive industry and pollution also degrades habitats and affects the health of ecosystems. No? Climate change also disrupt ecosystems brought about by natural disturbances which affects species distribution, the niche, and the survival of the species, impacting on the natural habitats. If we have severe climate disturbances like typhoons, and also let us not also forget about the volcanic eruptions, which also affects the natural habitats. Not only focusing on climate change, but also the geological changes, geological disruptions that occur in nature. The implications of the wildlife environmental threats were also identified. This included disease outbreaks that can jump from wildlife to humans. The dwindling food sources impact on food security can lead to malnutrition and conflicts over resources because of an exponentially increasing population. There's also the decline in wildlife population, which affects ecosystem health and reduces the cultural and aesthetic value of nature, because we live in a cycle of life, so each one has an ecological niche, no? Because if you reduce the population of the snakes, then it might likely result to the increased rapid expansion of the population of the rats, no? So there's an ecological balance, as what was taught through our ecology or science class, no? Economic burden, addressing consequences of threats from healthcare costs to habitat restoration. So with the recent occurrence of the pandemic, so there was a huge economic burden on the economy, closing the small and medium enterprises and business. So it was severely impacted, no? So these are some of the concerns we also need to consider, no? And healthcare costs became very expensive during the time of COVID, no? But on the other end, this also contributed to the natural habitat restoration, because no one was going around in the national parks or in the ecotourism areas because everyone was staying at home. So some of the recommended interventions on the wildlife environment sectors. So we have the communication, education, and public awareness campaigns in raising awareness about biodiversity. We also have environmental education, instilling conservation ethics, and the inclusive participation of marginalized groups like women, the indigenous peoples, and the youth, which are very important. There's need for a policy reform to harmonize land use plan and environmental protection. We need to also look into the enactment of the National Land Use Act in order to protect our natural habitats, and strengthening enforcement mechanisms, including law enforcement and judiciary processes. So this includes the wildlife enforcement officers, the task of the wildlife enforcement officers of DNR. Not only with the professionals, we need to focus our capacity building, but also for our community leaders who are advocates or who are frontliners in the natural environment, including our frontline workers. We also need to engage citizens through initiatives like Citizen Science Project, providing valuable data for monitoring research. We need to undertake continuous monitoring and research to determine the trends happening in the environment. The One Health perspective recognizes the interconnectedness of human, animals, and environmental health. In a project, we also need to allocate budgetary resources in order to implement our conservation and protection efforts. Climate-focused interventions, including adaptation by the communities, and also the mitigating measures in order to address the impacts of climate extremes. And lastly, concerted or collaborative efforts from various government agencies, society, the academia, and the private sector, because we all need to work together in addressing the issues of the zoonotic diseases. Some of the ways forward and sustainability mechanisms. We need to strengthen our institutional framework and collaboration, resource mobilization and financial support through international donor agencies, as well as other counterpart support from various organizations. There's also a need to integrate national policies and biodiversity conservation. So we also need to look into the biodiversity strategic action plan and how One Health can incorporate into this biodiversity action plan, which is facilitated by the Biodiversity Management Bureau. Continuous capacity building and training, like what we are doing as of the moment. We also need to engage the community and making them aware, no? For them to be sustainably manage the resources, especially when collecting wildlife. No? I remember one story when I was younger. We were in Subic Forest, and we were guided by one of the Aita because they have this ecotourism. They harvest bamboo from the wild, and they demonstrate it to the tourists. And one incident, he showed us in the bamboo grove. He collected microbats, no? And demonstrated how they are eating it, no? Because it's part of their culture, but they do it seasonally, no? In order to maintain the balance and sustainable consumption of the wildlife resources. No? But the risk that we need to look into is if there is over extraction of these resources, which may cause further imbalance in the environment, which may lead to dire consequences like the transfer of zoonotic diseases. So there must be a balance now because it's part of their culture. And they were also telling us that in one part of the Subic forest, there was this big tree, bigger bats, the flying fruit bats, no? And they was hanging on the big trees near the chest area, no? This is different from the microbats that they showed us. And they were telling us, oh, we harvest it seasonally, sir. Oh, nag-harvest kami pagdating ng mga Setyembre, kinukuha namin. Pero hindi lahat, no? Because they maintain the population, no? And these are the traditional practices they observe. So, where am I? So the use of tools in assessments. This is very important through science-based approaches. So we need monitoring, we need to establish criteria, we need to also to build modeling, and these are being implemented by research organizations and academic organizations as well as other partners, the NGOs and other organizations and other international organizations. So also we need to scale up successful practices and pilot projects for this One Health project. We have recently, there was a pilot testing in Bangkok, in Indonesia and Thailand. Stakeholder engagement and mapping. So we have a diverse suite of stakeholders on environment. So we need them to engage together and map them, identify who are the stakeholders involved in One Health. What is your role and part in promoting One Health, and what are the interventions you are undertaking? Translation and localization. So this means that it could be effective when we translate the tools, the different communication media into the local language. In the Philippines, we are lucky because we can speak English, but in other countries, they also need to translate it in their local or vernacular dialects. In order for, especially for the grassroots communities to understand better what is One Health. Sustainability planning and monitoring, the sustainability approaches that I have mentioned. So this needs to be continuously done. And also each agency should have a counterpart, a role in order to promote One Health. And this should be supported by a legal framework. Promotion of nature-based solutions. What are nature-based solutions? This is an evolving term because nature-based solutions are primarily watershed protection, reforestation, ecosystem restoration. These are all nature-based solutions, but it has focused, or it emerged because of the climate change development, and we need to be more aware and to be more protective of our natural environment, looking on how nature responds, no? The behavior of nature. That is why we turn with nature-based solutions in order to protect the natural environment, which will also be beneficial to the human beings. So these are the nature-based solutions. And lastly, we have the global collaboration and international partnerships with the participation of the different UN organizations mentioned earlier, as well as the ASEAN Center for Biodiversity and the ASEAN Secretariat, which we are a member. No? So we are very lucky because we have also the ASEAN, or the 10 ASEAN member states, as well as international partnerships. We have the USAID, the Global Affairs Canada, the European Union, which are very active in terms of the One Health approach. No? And of course, international NGOs and other conventions that we are party to. No? The Convention on Biological Diversity, the Convention on United Nations Forum on Climate Change, and the Convention on Desertification. So these are all the conventions that we need to support globally, because the environment causes no boundaries. No? Okay. So that is the last of my presentation, and this is my imparting message. You know, this picture is taken from the footslopes of Mount Banahaw. It's my picture. So the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. An old Chinese proverb. Thank you very much.
All right. So thank you very much for Sir Carl for that very informative and eye-opening talk. Since our speaker will be leaving early, we will now be accommodating questions for the Q&A session. For our online viewers, you may now send your questions in the comment section or in the chat box. And for our audiences here on site, please raise your hand and we will give you a microphone. Please introduce yourself and shoot your questions for Sir Carl. So, okay, perhaps we can start reading a few comments and questions in the Zoom. Okay. Hang on. All right, so we can start with Resty Gabuya. Sir Carl, you mentioned climate change many times, but you did not mention the Climate Change Commission. Do they have a role in this One Health approach here in the Philippines?
Yes, that is a very interesting insight. Yeah. Yes, the Climate Change Commission has a very important role, no, during the implementation of the ACB-FAO and BNB collaborative project on mainstreaming. So the Climate Change Commission was also engaged, was also invited. No? So yes, we will look into further engaging the Climate Change Commission, because they are the lead authority. And thank you very much for your suggestion. The Climate Commission is a very important organization with respect to One Health approach.
All right, thank you, Sir Carl. Do we have questions on site or do we proceed with the Zoom? Okay, so let's read another one from our Zoom participants. What are the current steps being undertaken by One Health to prevent the emergence of a new pandemic that can again widely put a halt in the lives of people worldwide, like that of the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yes, this has been mentioned in the presentation, because there's been a global plan of action which addressed to One Health, and the quadripartite organization has been very active in a global level as well as the ASEAN level. One of the major steps in terms of embodying our commitment is the ASEAN Declaration on One Health, being supported by the 10 ASEAN member states, which Philippines is part of. No? So that is on the global regional level, and going down to the national level. We have conducted a national bridging workshop, and a plan of action has been made, and this is a continuing activity. And ACB, the ASEAN Center for Biodiversity, has been very active in this respect because there has been a recent activity that firstly map the different environments of stakeholders looking to One Health, and then later on looking into the needs assessment, which has identified the wildlife threats, environmental threats, as well as the implications. And at this point, there's an ongoing initiative that would further look into the One Health approach. Actually, there are various efforts being undertaken by One Health, by different institutions, from the academe, from the NGOs, and we need to collectively work together and look into an integrated framework which should be spearheaded by the Biodiversity Management Bureau as the lead authority looking into One Health, because BMB is under the TNR, which focus on the environment sector, because in Department of Health and Department of Agriculture, they have been also very active, you know, and it is high time that we also look into the role of the environment. Thank you. That's that. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, sir. Thank you. We also have a question from our one of our DSUS, or Doctor in Sustainability class of UPOU FMDS. She mentioned sustainability considers three aspects: environmental sustainability, economic sustainability, and social sustainability. One of our methods of analysis in DSUS is to avoid working silos. In support of local community NBS, what environmental instruments require an urgent retranslation into socio-economic instruments?
That is a very challenging question indeed. So yes, that is true. So we have to look into the interrelationship of the economic, social, ecological aspect under the whole gamut framework of sustainability. So one of the very important tool that we could look into is the payment for ecosystem services, because in this we are able to value the economic, or the how do you call this, the cost value, or the value of the environment, or the payment. So we need to value this environment in order that we pay back, in order to protect our natural environment, give a particular value, so the community may be able to protect it instead of harvesting relentlessly from the environment. No. So there are various studies conducted right now on payment on ecosystem services that looks into the watershed, value of the watershed, as well as the value of the biodiversity and all other values that can be attributed to the environment. So I think that is one of the tools that can be looked into. No? So putting a payback on the producer of these ecosystem services and addressing it to the users, which are mainly downstream users of these ecosystem services.
All right. So thank you, sir. We have another question from our Zoom participants. How do we address the growing problem of converting forests and greeneries into subdivisions, like those done by the Villiers, or the destruction of the natural environment initiated by the government, like the Dolomite Beach, or the harmful ways done by China in the West Philippine Sea?
The primordial part, we have to look into the legal framework, the policy, the supporting regulatory framework. I think there is an urgent need to pass the National Land Use Act, which will look into the integrity or the appropriate land uses that could be attributed to a particular space. No, I think it is a high time, and it would safeguard our natural environments and also our agricultural prime areas from further convention into urban or built-up zones. That is one. No? So there's a need to support this. I think this was mentioned in one of the administrative speeches. No? And also for our forests, there are ongoing efforts right now. Also, this refers to a bill, the Sustainable Forest Management Bill, which will also look into updating the outdated Presidential Decree 705 way back in the 70s, because we also need to protect our forests without disregarding the importance of the upland people living in the countryside. No, so there is a need to look into balancing between the conservation aspect as well as improving the well-being of the communities. Of course, they need food on their table on a daily basis. There's high incidence of poverty, but we need to empower them. We need to educate them. Through the Sustainable Forest Management Act, we can address this. No? So a need for conservation, the balance, and the improvement of the human well-being through improving their livelihoods.
All right. Thank you, sir. We have a question from one of our live viewers on YouTube from Mac Masagka. What agency spearheaded the implementation of this program in the Philippines? I'm referring to One Health, One ASEAN.
One Health, One ASEAN. For the Philippines? Is that for the Philippines? Okay. So the authority over One Health for One ASEAN in the Philippines is the Biodiversity Management Bureau, no? Because this is under the umbrella of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, primarily focusing on the environment aspect. No? And we all know that Biodiversity Management Bureau is focused on biodiversity and the protected areas. And there is continuous harvesting, exploitation of the resources found in the natural areas or from the protected areas. So the BMB, Sir Mac, is the designated authority that will look into the environment's aspect of looking into the One Health, but this should be in collaboration with Department of Health looking into the human health, the Department of Agriculture looking into the livestock, and also, of course, the domesticated animals. No? But this should be supported by a legal framework, and that is why I mentioned earlier there is this administrative order, or this field CTZZ that looks into the relationship of the work, the collaboration of these various agencies working together in One Health. Because One Health involves three elements: the environment, human health, and the veterinary or the animal health.
Thank you, sir, for that clarification. So someone is asking, what is the difference between One Health and planetary health?
One Health, planetary. Yes, I have heard of the planetary health, no, because I think that is the term being used by St. Luke's Medical Center. Well, One Health, this is a global definition, but I'm not very aware of the planetary health, no. But One Health is, yes, it's a global or regional term being used right now. This emerged primarily from the occurrence of the zoonotic diseases. Yeah, I've heard of the planetary health, but I'm not very aware of its origin.
All right,
Sorry
sir.
about that.
So due to the interest of time, we'll be accommodating 2 questions more from our Zoom participants. From Rian Senangote, how does One Health monitor all of these efforts done that contribute to the achievement of the plan of action? What about the management and funding mechanism of the initiatives?
How do they monitor? Okay, so that is the first question. What is the funding mechanisms? There was this national bridging workshop that was conducted in 2022 that brought together various stakeholders. This was led by World Health Organizations and the other UN organizations, the quadripartite organizations. And also the Department of Health was also present. So in order to monitor the flow of things, this should be embodied in a national roadmap, no? Because in a national roadmap, you will be able to identify the various set of activities, who will be the implementers, who will be the monitoring bodies, who will be the working body that monitors this, or the overseeing body, no? Which is feels it is easy, no? And what are the further mechanisms in order to sustain the activities? So the national roadmap is very important in this respect, and it is closely being undertaken right now. No? This is closely looked into by the Biodiversity Management Bureau in terms of the environment sector. And the DNR is closely working with the Department of Health and the Department of Agriculture. So the national roadmap is a very important framework that should look into the monitoring aspect of these developments. And also embodied in this national roadmap is the sustainability aspects. No? So who are the funding bodies? Who will continue to support from local to sub-local to the national level? No? So because there needs to be continuous support or funding mechanism in order to undertake the different interventions in One Health, and that includes, very important, is capacity building. And this is also where the state university academic institutions come into the picture. No? How do we contribute? There is this Philohan, Philippine One Health University Network, and I think we need to add membership to this who will be active in One Health. Now, I think there are about 8 university members in Philohan. So yes, there are different roles that the organizations can play into, and they can support the sustainability of this through their mandates and their roles, and not only through funding.
All right, sir. So as our last question from our DSU student, Mr. Mark Abelon, what is the future role of the Virology and Vaccine Institute of the Philippines, which is hopefully be passed as a law in the One Health approach?
The virology, I'm sorry, but I'm not a medical doctor. I'm sorry, but I cannot answer the question. Can you please repeat the question?
Sir, what is the future role, which is hopefully be passed as a law in the One Health approach?
This law under the One Health approach. Yes, there is already a joint administrative order, no, that collectively identified 3 lead agencies, no, DOH, DA, and DNR. No? But in terms of the virology, I'm not still aware of there is an existing effort that will look into it. No? And I think this could be in my perspective, this could be undertaken by the Department of Health, and our partners from the Department of Health, as well as from other institutions, university like UP Manila, will look into this respect.
All right, so thank you so much, everyone, for sending in your questions. We will take note of the other questions you have sent and unanswered by Sir Carl, but we will relay all of them to him. So, all right, moving forward to award the certificate and token of appreciation, may we call on the FMDS program hosts for this month's LTIO, Dr. Myra Oruga of the MIH program and Dr. Ricardo Bagarinao of the GCAS and MAS program to award the certificate to Forrester Carr. So please allow me to read the citation. University of the Philippines Open University Faculty of Management and Development Studies awards the Certificate of Appreciation to Carl Abelard Villegas as a guest speaker in the Let's Talk It Over event titled One Health, One ASEAN, Unifying Health for People, Animals, and Ecosystems, held on September 29, 2023 at the UP Open University, Los Baños, Laguna. signed by Dean Joan V. Serrano. Once again, thank you very much, Forrester Carl. Let's give him a big round of applause. All right. Thank you, sir. Okay, so moving forward, for our next topic, please allow me to introduce our second speaker. Dr. DJ Darwin Orbandoy is a distinguished associate professor of epidemiology at the Department of Veterinary Paraclinical Sciences, College of Veterinary Medicine, University of the Philippines, Los Baños. He holds a PhD in integrative pathobiology with a designated emphasis on biotechnology from the University of California, Davis, where his dissertation focused on leveraging pathogen genome data for epidemiological inference. In addition to his academic role, Dr. Bandoy serves as an epidemic modeling consultant for the World Health Organization's Incident Management Support Team, focusing on COVID-19 in the Western Pacific region. A veterinary medicine cum laude graduate and class valedictorian, Dr. Bandoy has undergone extensive postgraduate training in areas such as infectious disease modeling, data-intensive biology, and Python programming. His scholarly contributions include multiple peer-reviewed publications on topics ranging from machine learning in microbial, genomics to epidemiological studies of various infectious diseases. He has presented his research at numerous international conferences and has been the recipient of prestigious awards, including the U.S. Department of Agriculture Food Safety Fellow and UC Davis Dr. Jacob Trom Endowed Scholarship. Dr. Bandoy is the founder of the Philippine Society for Epidemiology and a diplomate of the Philippine College of Veterinary Epidemiologists. He is dedicated to the advancement of epidemiological research and education using data science methodologies to solve complex challenges in veterinary and public health. To talk us through One Health in the Philippine context, let us all welcome Dr. DJ Darwin Bandoy.
Good afternoon. High-tech sa OpenU. May tablet. Nangangain nata ito ng... Hindi, iPad. Ang ginagawa ko kasi pag nagle-lecture ako, may iPad, tapos naka-project sa Mac. Tapos yung Mac yung nakakonect sa ano. So yung topic natin ngayon, maganda yung introduction ni Professor Carl. So it saved me a lot of time. So, but I want it to be pragmatic. So my first interface with One Health reminded me of my involvement sa UP Pandemic Response Team. Naaalala nyo pa ba yun, ng pandemic? What were you doing then? So yung pandemic sa akin, nag-start sa January 2020. Nirelease nila yung sequences. Yung mga Pilipino, wala pang idea kasi taal pa lang yung nagmamask yung mga tao. May taal. Wala pang dalgona nun, pero people were, taal pa lang yung... So, ina-analyze namin yung unang report na nabasa namin, may mga respiratory diseases sa isang ospital sa China, sa Wuhan. And the doctor who reported it died. Namatay siya. So, yun may ganong history palagi na the first who identifies professional, yun yung unang casualty. I don't know why. So may doktor na nag-report, and then rapidly after a few months binuo yung UP Pandemic Response Team. So I was one of the epidemic modelers for the UP Pandemic Response Team. It was a very interesting structure because yung head namin ay DOH Secretary ngayon, si Dr. Ted Herbosa. Tapos si Dr. Mahar Lagmay yung nag-recruit sa akin. He's a geologist. And we have statisticians. We have communications expert. And it was my first time in UP working in a very diverse group. And I told them, why are we not talking like this in UP? Why are we working in silos? Why are we not talking with communications experts, economists? Part din nun si Professor Cielo, yung nag-resign na sa gawa ng pagkakap ng price ng rice. No? She was arguing that's not the right policy. Nandun din siya sa group na yun. So we have economists. And dun sa interaction namin na yun, hiningi nila yung models namin. Sabi, pahinga ng epidemic model nyo. And they calculated the cost of the pandemic. What are the costs for these hospitalizations? Why is it relevant for One Health? Pupunta tayo doon sa, sana makontrol ko ng tama. Chiding, it does not work. Yung definition ko ng One Health is very pragmatic. It just defines it as an added value. Added value in terms of human and animals, financial savings, social resilience, environmental sustainability. By working together. So there's a cooperation of different disciplines versus when they are just working alone. Kasi pwede mo namang isolve yung diseases from a veterinary perspective, from a human doctor's perspective, na working differently. Pero it becomes One Health kasi when they work together, the results have an added value. Kumbaga, sa antimicrobial resistance, may synergism pag gumamit ka ng dalawang antibiotic or combination. So, hindi mo siya magagawa. Pwede mong gawin, pero hindi ganun yung effect niya kung solo-solo o kanya-kanya, tayo-tayo. UP is very notorious for that. We have a tendency to work on silo, field namin to, wag kang nangengelam. Pero One Health is very, pag nag-course proposal, babanatan yan sa title pa lang. Ba't ganyan yung title nyo? Kami dapat nagtuturo na. That's very anti-One Health kasi One Health seeks cooperation of different fields or discipline. In operation, mahirap siya kasi nga meron tayong silo. Ayaw natin na may nangingialam sa expertise natin. Pero sa tunay na buhay, maganda if we find ways to collaborate with one another. Yun yung pragmatic definition ng One Health. But it's not really a flowery road because of human instinct of protecting our own domains. So yun yung realidad ng One Health na application. Yung topic na binigay sa akin ay zoonotic disease. Ang pinakasimpleng definition, this is from WHO, is any disease or infection that is naturally transmissible from vertebrate animals to humans. So ito yung isang definition nito. Tayo ay nasa tropical area. So, meron tayo lahat practically ng mga sakit. Konti lang siguro yung mame-mention na walang sakit kasi may lamok tayo. Pag may lamok tayo, marami tayong makukuha ng sakit doon. So meron akong kasama sa office sa WHO. Pagdating niya sa Pilipinas, nagka-dengue siya. Sabi ko, wag mong ititik lahat ng mga sakit dito kasi marami pa yan. Magkaka-chikungunya ka pa, may lepto dito. So marami tayong sakit. May rabies din dito, may fasciola, may schistosoma. So lahat ng mga nasa textbook, kaya ang hirap maging vet Kasi aaralin mo lahat ng sakit sa lahat ng hayop na halos lahat meron tayo. Tama yung sabi ni Daniel Padilla, nasa iyo na ang lahat Ang iniisip niya, yung mga sakit sa Pilipinas, sa mga hayop, nandun, kompleto tayo. Pati nga yung Ebola meron tayo. Yung Ebola sa Africa lang, pero may strain ng Ebola reston, lumabas sa Pilipinas. Baka sabihin nyo, wow, wala na sa amin, malayo yan. Doon sa Calamba siya unang, may lapit lang sa atin, no? Meron dong monkey facility na nag-e-export sa ibang bansa. In-export may pang-export tayo, no? Akala natin OFW lang yun, i-export natin. Nag-export tayo ng mga unggoy. Kasi maganda daw yung quality ng Philippine macaque for research. Pinadala siya sa Reston, Houston. Tapos doon nila na-detect, namamatay yung mga unggoy. So tapos nung bumalik sa Calamba, nag-investigate, yung mga Pilipino may antibodies sa Ebola Reston, pero hindi sila namatay. Ang lakas ng mga Pilipino, no? Yung Ebola killer siya sa mga tao sa Africa. We have that, no? Tapos bumalik siya after a decade or so, namatay yung mga baboy, now may Ebola Reston sila. So we have a very interesting dynamic sa mga sakit that complicates our situation. Na-mention na to, so I will not repeat this again. Supposedly, the estimate is 60% of human infections have an animal origin. 60%. Directly or indirectly. And all of new and emerging human infectious diseases, some 75% jump species from non-human animals to people. Ang ganda ng biodiversity natin. Actually, we have one of the most biodiversity metrics for bat species. Alam niyo yun? Tayo yung pinakamaraming klase ng bat sa world. It's so exciting because marami silang sakit. So you have, buti wala na si Professor Cal, no? Exciting sa environment, sa mga forester, pero sa amin exciting kasi marami silang hinaharbor na sakit yung mga bats. Why? Well, we don't know why yet. Pero kasi daw pag yung ibon, mataas yung metabolic rate, para daw silang nilalagnat. Naturally, kasi lumilipad sila eh. So pag lumilipad, mataas yung metabolic rate para siyang nilalagnat. Di ba pag may sakit kayo, nilalagnat kayo? You're fighting infection. So parang may built-in pang fight. Yun ang theory, pero hindi pa, this is an open question. Maganda PhD topic yun. No? Nobody knows yet. Why birds are able to harbor viruses that does not kill them, but the moment it jumps to human, it becomes lethal. This is an open question. Tinanong yan nung nag-PhD ako ng professor. Sabi ko, malay ko. Pero kasi yun yung isang theory, no? Hindi ko naman alam, kailangan bang alam ko lahat ng sagot, kaya nga ako nag-PhD. Pero maraming open questions yan. In your career, you need to find the big questions. Advice sa mga bata. If you want to have a lasting legacy, ask yourself, what are the biggest questions in your field? Number 1. Number 2, what are you doing about it? So if you want to have a prominent career, gusto mo maging bibo, maging bida-bida, ito yung ultimate bida-bida. Tanungin mo yung pinakamalaking question sa field mo. Tapos tanungin mo, anong ginagawa mo towards that question? Pag wala ka pa doon, nasa mali kang position. Tanungin mo muna, ano yung mga pinakamalaking question sa field mo at dapat doon ka nagtatrabaho. That becomes, rather than chasing the latest fad, AI, gano'n, no? Paano kaya ako makakasingit sa AI? Think of the biggest question. So rather than thinking about, dun mali pumasok yung GMA7, nag-launch sila ng AI. Sabi ko, mawawalan na ako ng career pag AI na yung teacher. Pero I think it's the wrong framing of AI. AI newscaster. What does it solve? Parang ang pangit ng dating, makakapagtipid tayo, puro AI yung sportcaster natin. No? I think it's the wrong use to a wrong problem. There are bigger problems that AI could be used rather than that. On average, domestic animal species share an average of 19. It could range confidence interval 5 to 31. Zoonotic viruses with people. And wild animals share an average of 0.23 range of 0 to 16 viruses with people. So mas maraming zoonotic viruses sa domestic animals. Mas konti lang sa wild animal species. Pero the moment it jumps, it could become a pandemic. Ganun yung theory, although hindi pa settled yung origin ng jumping of species. Kasi sa genomic analysis, yung pinakamalapit na ancestor ay galing sa bats. yung SARS coronavirus. Pero ang laki ng parang nag-rearrange siya eh. Ang analogy ko doon kapag, ewan ko, baka mahiyaman na yung mga estudyante ngayon pero mahirap kasi kami. Noong unang panahon, nakikipanood kami ng TV, tapos maraming mga tsinelas. Tapos pag mag-uuwian na, nagkakapalit-palit ng mga tsinelas pag similar. Parang ganun eh. Ganun yung nangyayari kapag may dalawang virus na nag-infect sa isang cell, the genomic material could rearrange. Ganun yung nangyayari sa SARS coronavirus. May rearrangement. At yung rearrangement na yun allowed the virus to attach to the receptors of the lungs of humans. Kaya nagkaroon ng yun ang formula sa pandemic. So paano mangyayari yun? Yun yung i-cover natin. But hindi siya ganong ka-frequent na event. But yung mga black swan events na sinasabi na rare at the right combination could be a pandemic. And it did happen to be a pandemic. So wag na tayong lumayo. Ito malapit sa natin. Meron tayong pandemic pero may outbreak tayo ng avian influenza sa Pilipinas. Bird flu. Meron tayo nun. Now, ang dynamics kasi nun, kapag nagwi-winter, so yung mga migratory birds, wala naman silang pambili ng jacket. No? So they migrate. They travel hundreds or could you imagine gantong kalaking ibon, lilipad siya sa dagat, no, hundreds of kilometers, tapos pupunta sila sa Pilipinas. Isa sa mga famous na lugar niyan, yung mga Candaba Swamp. Nakita niyo na ba yung Candaba Swamp pag kayo? Kita ba sa expressway? Yung Candaba Swamp ba yung nakikita sa expressway? Part nyon, di ba? Pag nasa expressway kayo, makikita nyo pag bumabaha, puro dagat doon. Gustong-gusto ng mga migratory birds yon, and they flock millions yung mga ibon na nag-ano doon. Kaya lang, may enterprising individuals who thought it's a good idea to have chickens. Oo, sasyak kayo. Welcome to the Philippines. So, they think it's a good idea to have poultry houses kasi pag ipot daw ng manok, diretso sa swamp, mawawash away. Tinamaan ng bird flu. Kasi nga, nandun sila sa migratory path, tapos walang biosecurity. So yung mga ibon, kasi gusto mga open air systems yun, mapapasok siya ng ibon. So tinamaan tayo ng bird flu. Dahil dyan, it impacts inflation. No? So pag bumaba yung supply mo, tataas yung prices mo. This is just one example, but before the pandemic, another disease, hindi naman siya zoonotic, but palagay ko we need to put it into One Health yung African swine fever. Yung African swine fever, hindi tayo naapektuhan, but it should be tackled in a One Health approach kasi na-decimate yung price, na-decimate yung supply ng baboy. 40% ng supply nawala, gawa nun. Ganun siya katindi. And I did not realize it kasi nasa Amerika ako na PhD ako. Pero pag uwi ko sa Pilipinas, inutusan ko yung kapatid ko mamili. Sabi ko, bumili ka nga ng ganito. Tapos tinawagan niya, Kuya, anong gusto mo? Baboy o baka? Sabi ko, ano bang price difference? Sabi niya, parang pareho lang. So na-shock ako. Kasi nung unang panahon, yung presyo ng baboy parang half ng presyo ng baka. Ngayon magkadikit na. Sabi ko, sige, magtiis na lang tayo sa baka. Baka na lang yung bilhin mo. Kasi pareho ng price. So that was really very shocking sa akin. The impact of diseases to inflation. Ang laki ng tinaas ng prices ng baboy. And we are still struggling with that epidemic outbreak. 2019, we still haven't fully controlled it. Ang hirap niyang kontrolin. And we will not be able to control it using the classical approaches. It does not work. We need a One Health approach. Yung mga Pilipino kasi mahilig mag-uwi ng pasalubong luncheon meat, mga ganon, di ba? Dahil mahal natin yung mga kamag-anak natin, mga kaagaw natin sa mana, sa So yung mga pinsan natin, masaya pag reunion, pero pag nag-aagawan na pag may mana, So pinapasalubungan natin sila. Nagpa-positive yun for African swine fever virus Tapos, pag yun ay pinrocess, tapos ipinakain na sa mga tao, yung mga tao may tira-tira, nagiging kaning baboy yung tawag doon. Alam nyo ba ang English ng kaning baboy? Uy, nakapagtanong ko na mahirap na tanong. Anong English ng kaning baboy? Pig rice, hindi pig rice. May chicken rice sa Singapore, pero hindi pig rice yung kaning baboy. Sabi ko rin sa mga alam nyo, walang nakakaalam na Pilipino dyan sa ginagamit yung term sa kaning baboy. Ako nga, first time ko narinig yun. Swill. S-W-I-L. No, never heard, no? Swill, no? Hindi ko nga alam yung swill before nung sabihin nila ang English ng kaning baboy. May campaign material sila, stop swill feeding. Sabi ko, sinong makakaintindi ng campaign material na swill? Ako nga, hindi ko nga alam yung swill. Vet na ako yung swill, hindi ko pa alam kung anong, doon ko lang narinig nung sinabi nila eh. Sabi ko, why are we trying to English everything when our audience is Filipino? Di ba? May campaign material, stop swill feeding eh. I doubt if the audience understands that. Kayo nga, tinesting ko kayo based on my statistically invalid inference. You don't know what swill is. Paano pa kayo ordinaryong tao? Hindi nila alam yun. And our campaign materials are designed like that for, I don't know why. I don't know why. Are we not involving communications expert? Kaya nga sabi ko, we need One Health in this aspect. Hindi alam lahat ng vet. Alam niyo yung sakit. Pero the communications, nagdududa ako because of that specific incidents. We need expertise across different fields. Na-inspire ako ng kanta sa High School Musical. Tinaghahanap ako kasi may lyrics sa High School Musical, we're all in this together. Tapos may lyrics doon, we are different in one way, in a different way, in a good way. And that's why maganda na iba-iba tayo eh. Yun ang konsepto ng One Health eh. We have different expertise and when you put them together, you achieve better results. Sorry, baka nag-overtime na ako. May nagta-time ba? Wala akong makitang relo eh. Most of this have been discussed. So hindi ko na siya i-dealt with to details. Pero nag-i-increase ng demand for animal protein. So ask yourself, nakakailang manok kayo per year? Baka nga sa isang linggo, isang manok eh, no? Kung kulang pa. So there are 52 weeks, nakaka-52 manok kayo. Alam nyo bang mas maraming manok kaysa sa populasyon ng Pilipinas? Opo, Dok, ako nga lang eh, baka... Parang 1 billion ata yung estimate namin eh, few years ago. Nag-estimate kami ng population ng manok. Parang 1 billion ang manok sa Pilipinas per year. Kasi tayo ay 110 million. Siguro naman hindi 10 manok ang kinakain nyo sa isang taon, no? Pag umorder yung iba, baka isang linggo lang, baka isang kain lang yung isang manok eh. So you will bloat the number. So we consume a lot of meat products which results to agricultural intensification. So, para tong camellia homes, 'di ba? Kung may camellia homes sa mga tao, may camellia homes sa mga manok. Sa China, yung nakita ko pinaka-extreme may condominium ng mga baboy eh. Magkaka-condominium na dito sa natin, 'di ba? Tinitingnan ko nga, maganda view diyan eh. Kita mo yung may camellia condominium na dito sa sa Los Baños. Ano namang implication nito? Let me give you a research. So I'm more of a data scientist now. So I'll give you data. So I have thesis students. We were granted with 160 million by the US Department of USAID to upgrade our labs, and after 5 years may PhD na ako, hindi pa rin tapos. It's a classical UPLB. Pero nakapag-research, may data na. Hindi pa tapos ang pero may data na. So bumili kami ng tagte 10 million na antimicrobial residue detector. It's a Randox machine. And our finding, hindi pa ito napapublish. Lahat ng karne na tinest namin, may antibiotic residue. Lahat. 100%. So sabi ko nga, buy one, take one. May karne ka na, may libre ka pang antibiotic. Di ba? Lahat ng karne may antibiotic. Ano yung mga antibiotic? May tetracycline. So yung halo-halo to, liver lang tong data na to, pero meron ding may tetracycline, may quinolone, may CEP4. Pero dahil sobrang galing ng machine, kahit konti lang na-detect niya, hindi pa siya enough mag-trigger ng maximum residue kasi allowed naman na may antibiotic siya at a certain level. Pero ang problema ko doon, kung araw-araw kang kumakain ito, hindi ba maiipon yon? Di ba may bioamplification? Yun ang hindi ko masettle sa aking utak eh. Pagpalagay natin na hindi niya na-meet yun, kung yung residue level allowed ay 600, kung 599, lusot na ba siya? Kasi nagbago na yung standards kasi luma siya. And therefore, pwede yun. Pero dahil sobrang sensitive nito, nade-detect niya. Tapos, but wait, there's more. Yung isang karne or isang liver, minsan 3 antibiotic yan nandun. So, hindi lang by one, by one, take 4. Meron kang, So, this is something that, bakit natin pinag-uusapan to? This is a classical One Health problem kasi, kung may sakit yung tao at may antibiotic resistance, hindi yun makokontrol ng Department of Health without looking into the drivers. Kaya nga importante yung One Health kasi kahit mag-AMR sa human side, if you don't consider the food chain in its totality, kasi yan, pag itinain ng baboy, yung antibiotic residue, nandun pa rin yun, pupunta sa tubig yon, magkukulture ka ng, kasi yung mga may motto ang mga bacteria. What does not kill me, make me stronger. So, kapag hindi mo pinatay yung bacteria, magkakaroon siya ng baseline level ng resistance. Na ipapaso yun. Isa yun sa mga PhD topic sa PhD ko eh. Kapag may nagbigay ka ng antibiotics, tapos mas mababa yung level, actually mas dangerous yun kasi hindi mo pinatay yung bacteria. Binuhay mo siya. Kaya nga 'di ba sa mga Korean drama, kung nanonood kayo, pag naglaban sila nung hari, pag yung hari na pagtripan yung isang faction, ipapapatay niya unto to 3rd generation. So parang papatayin nila lahat para walang tatanda magre-revenge. Baliktad yung ginagawa natin pag konting antibiotics. Nag-aalaga tayo ng mga resistant. Tapos kapag dumating yung right combination, it could become very a dangerous situation na maubusan tayo ng arsenal ng antibiotics. Welcome to the Philippines. So, may isa pang interesting dito. Hindi pa ako tapos dyan. So, lahat may antibiotic residue, pero around 45% sa Santa Rosa, Laguna, yung nag-exceed ng allowable level. So, kumbaga, every other meat or liver sample exceeded the residue levels. Sa San Pedro, medyo mas mababa, pero overall, around 30% pag in-average namin. This is before African swine fever. We're suspecting it might have increased because of a current disease status. Hindi malabo na mag-increase yan. Anong implication nito? Siguro yung baboy, ibibenta na may sakit, binigyan ng antibiotic. Meron kasing withdrawal period pag ibibenta na bawal. So yung implication nito, yung baboy ay malapit na ibenta, binigyan pa rin ng antibiotic kasi may sakit siya siguro, inuubo. Nagkaka-COVID din ba yung hayop? Yes, may reports no na nagkaka-COVID din sila, may transmission, zoonotic siya. Sa mga zoological collection, binakunahan din sila ng bakuna sa tao, binigyan din sila. Ano bang pagkain natin sa lunch? Wala kayo ng gana. Increased use and exploitation of wildlife. This is also another issue because of our limitation spaces. Nakikita ko yung may mga ginagawa kayo na kalsada na dumadaan sa mga forested areas. Na nga dating So may interface ngayon. Kung walang lamok, hindi ka na-expose sa mga ganong lamok na may mga certain diseases, because of this new road construction, nag-o-open up yan ng interface for marami kasing uses din tong may gumagamit na for traditional medicine. So that again creates this interface with wild animals. I will not mention this urbanization, land use change, yung agricultural lands converted, and then and extractive industries, it was exhaustively discussed. Travel and transportation, kasi yung mga life goals natin, makapag-picture sa Instagram na nakarating ka na sa mga gantong bansa. Actually, inanalyze namin yan. Sabi namin, ba't hindi kumalat yung SARS noong 2003? Bakit mas kumalat itong COVID-19? Tinignan namin yung parang mga high-speed trains ng China. Before, mahirap umalis. But now, China is very connected. So if there's any particular disease, within days, it could spread to entire China. So merong ganon siyang dynamics. So yung SARS would have been like that kung connected na sila. But no, it's very difficult to travel before 2003. But now, very connected in China. And once there's a group of people who are there and spread it then, and then we'll go by air travel. So yun yung ano no. This is the reality. We want to travel. We want to go to exotic places and say we are successful and we made it in life. But that also creates another dimension sa ano no, sa spread of diseases. Changes in food supply chains, we are now expecting to eat more. We have diversity in food preferences. So this also, kasi pag may bago kang kinakain, may bago kang source ng infection. Yun naman ultimately siya. Nagbago na ba yung eating habits? Actually, masashock yung mga batchmate ko pag pumunta sila sa UPLB. Social na ang mga kainan dito, no? Sabi ko, yung mga kinakainan lang natin dati, parang mga turo-turo ngayon, pero may mga gourmet. Pwede ka na magkaroon ng E. coli O15, ano yung gawa nung meron ng steak eh. May steak na doon mo nakukuha yung mga medium rare eh. Meron ng mga steak. Parang nung mga bata-bata ko, wala akong alam na mga nagsaserve ng steak masyado dito. Pero yung bagong preferences natin also creates opportunities for that. And of course, climate change. Sa climate change kasi, nagbabago yung tinitirhan ng mga mosquito. Halimbawa, dati yellow doon. Pag yellow, wala silang tubig para ano. They're actually changing their habitat because of that. So pag nagbago yung habitat nila, mas maraming sakit na pumapasok. Now, sa atin, hindi ganun ka-drastic kasi ang taas ng baseline natin eh. No? Mataas na yung baseline natin eh. Pero still relevant kasi yung intensity naman, nagiging complex disaster siya. Okay, ito na yung main topic ko, ang haba ng introduction ko. Bakit may rabies ang Pilipinas? There's already an effective vaccine. It only cost, Doc Paul, magkano ang rabies vaccine ngayon? Per bottle, ilang doses yon? 30 pesos. Sa halagang 30 pesos, bawat isang bakuna ay masosolve na ang rabies. No? Bakunahan mo lahat ng aso, tapos ang rabies. Napakasimple lang, no? I will not delve into the manifestation of rabies. May mga documentary dyan eh. Yung, pag nagka-rabies ka kasi, 100% mamamatay ka. Pag may signs na, nakagat ka ng aso, 100% mamamatay ka na. Hindi pag nakagat ng aso. Pag nakagat ka ng aso, tapos manifest ka na ng sign, hydrophobia, natatakot sa ano. Tapos may, yung mga videos na napanood ko dito sa documentary, nakatali sila sa higaan, tapos nagwawala-wala sila. So, may rabies ba sa Pilipinas? Ito yung data. So, let's take a data-centric approach to this. More or less, around 300-ish simula 2007 hanggang 2018 lang tong data na nandito. Pero ito yung numbers. Dok, konti lang naman pala, 300. Hindi yan siguro problema. Well, by region, nasan tayo? Region 30. Dok, konti lang yan. Bawas na yan sa kaagaw ko sa mana. ARMM is 0. Do you believe that? Well, ARM is one of the poorest sa Pilipinas. The incidence is poverty incidence, parang 50 plus ata. Parang ganon, 50 plus yung poverty. Therefore, wala siyang probably mga diagnostic lab. So, baka ito ay under detection, under reporting. Dok, ang hirap naman ng zero pero hindi zero. Kaya nga may data scientist, doon ka binabayaran eh. Kasi yung zero, parang yung start ng COVID, sabi, wala namang COVID sa Pilipinas. Wala namang testing eh. So yung zero, hindi totoong zero yon. So kailangan interpret with caution. Pag nakita ka ng zero sa data, zero ba talaga yan? Yun yung challenge dito. And marami pa mga challenge sa data na to. Hindi porking hindi sinabing hindi kanya mahal, hindi kanya talaga mahal. Parang ganun yun eh. Ba't niya ako tinetext? Mga ganon sa jeep naririnig ko. Ano tong ginagawa niya? Anong ibig sabihin ito? Mga ganon, no? Hindi pa naman sinasabi, hindi pa sila, pero may indication or hints. Ganon din yung data. You need to look at the data from that perspective. Punta tayo sa animal bites. 1.4 yung highest to 1.5 million yung kinagat ng aso. 1 milyon ang nakagat ng aso. 1.4. Oh, may data pala ako. May naisip ako. Ting, ting, ting. Gagamitin ko ito mamaya. 1.4. That's a very interesting data point. 1.4 million yung nakagat ng aso. Tandaan nyo, 1.4 million nakagat ng aso. Kasi So, ano bang protocol pag nakagat ng aso? Pag nakagat ka ng aso, dapat pumunta ka sa animal bite center para ikaw ay mabigyan ng prophylaxis, di ba? Doc Paul, tama ako? 10,000 yung ano na yon? Total cost. So, 1 million times 10,000. Magkano yon? So, economics. 1 million times 10,000. Magkano siya? Kung lahat ng nakagat ng aso ay matuturo ka ng regimen na yon, mas malaki yan sa confidential funds, pero hindi naman natin gagastusin ng 11 days. Buong taon na yung budget natin, no? Pero kailangan ng billion ba o trillion? Ilang billion? 10 billion. So, dahil hindi natin na-manage ang rabies properly, may gumagastos at ang pondo ng gobyerno ay hindi 10 billion sa rabies. Ang huli ko nakitang figure ay 900 million. So kulang siya ng maraming pera. Maraming iPhone ang mabibili noon, no? Anong mga hayop? Sabi sa data ng Bureau of Animal Industry, hindi lang aso, pati pusa, pero pati may kambing din eh, may baboy din eh. Baka nakagat sila, pakalat-kalat. Pati baka eh, meron ding unggoy eh. Kakaiba yun sa primate, no? Kabayo, kalabaw. Pero ito ay mga asong gala. Free roaming or occasionally roaming. Dito napapasok yung One Health eh. Ang pondo kasi ng gobyerno nasa human side, DOH, 100 million. Pero yung pinaka-effective na wins ay magbakuna ng aso. Wala na halos budget ata. Huli ko nakita 8 million eh. Iko-compute natin yan. So sa data na to, kung nakikita nyo, ito yung vaccine coverage. Sa vaccine coverage, ilan yung dapat bakunahan para tumigil ang rabies? May simpleng equation doon, 1 minus 1 over R naught. R naught is the average transmissibility. So yung ibig sabihin, on average, ilan yung nahawa ng rabies? So pag kinompute mo yung 1 over 1 R naught, makukuha mo itong vaccination threshold na critical threshold. Ang dapat natin bakunahan, 70%. Ang binabakunahan natin ay mas mababa doon. Therefore, hindi tayo mawawalan ng rabies. Kasi hindi natin pinaprioritize yung animal side. Sa north, na known for consuming dogs, which is illegal for may practice siya eh. Now, kahit hindi mo pa kinakain yung aso, pero pag kinakatay mo siya at natalsikan ka, marami ng avenues for infection. Sa Region 1, which I think should be a priority area, ay 40% lang. So magkaka-rabies ka pa rin eh. Hindi mo nababakunahan yung target mo na 70%. 50-50, may isang nakahit, Region 7. Pero I will question that. I will question that kasi hindi ako naniniwala dyan. Siyempre, Doc, ba't di ka naniniwala sa data? Data yan. Kasi may assumption to eh. Ang assumption nito, bawat 10 Pilipino, isa ang aso. Doon nila kinuha yung denominator. Pero sa mga 2 paper na nabasa ko, pag nag-actual survey sila, palaging hindi totoo yun. Kumbaga, ina-assume na yung basis natin for this percentage calculation is on the assumption sa 100 million na Pilipino, ilan ang aso sa assumption na yon? Kung 1 dog per 10 100 million, 1 every 10. Hindi ba 10 million? 1 per 10, 100 million. Oo. 100 million people. $10 million, di ba? For 1. Sige, ika-calculate natin. Assignment. Teka lang hindi ko ma-scroll eh. Ayan. Ang binakunahan lang natin ay 4.7 million on the assumption that there are 10 million dogs. Ilan pa yung kailangan natin bakunahan? Mga 5 million, pero palagi ko malito eh. Baka 20 million yung aso sa Pilipinas eh. That's my hypothesis. Doc, hindi ba natin binibilang ang aso? I asked the Philippine Statistics Authority, yung mga statistician, may census po ba ng aso kapag, di ba may nagbabahay-bahay? Wala daw eh, hindi daw kinakapture. Sabi ko, dapat idagdag sa census yon. We need to count the dogs. Ilan po yung aso nyo? Pero may mamimiss din ako dun eh. Kasi may mga stray dogs na walang Ang bibilangin natin, aso sa loob ng bahay. Pero pag lumabas kayo, maraming mga asong walang nagmamay-ari. Community may nagpapakain pero walang Parang relationship nyo sa magulang nyo, pinapakain kayo pero nasa labas kayo ng bahay, parang stray dogs kayo in that sense, diba? Pinapakain kayo pero mapahing allowance. Pag sa certain age, diba, lumalayo yung yung transactional relationship. So you are a stray dog like that, in that manner, no? Meron kayong feeding relationship pero it stops there. So the assumption is, if we calculate this, anong relevance ng One Health dito? We need to do a lot of things. We need to consult the Philippine Statistical Authority. The DOH could not do this alone. Ang target dati, 2015, zero rabies. It now has moved to 2030. Probably it will move that unless we address this. And that is because we are not treating animals on an equal plane of level to humans. One Health kasi, it becomes One Health kasi humans, environment, and animals are treated on an equal importance. Dito kasi, paano masasabing mahal ka na isang tao kung ginagastos ang kanya? Dok, napaka-economistang naman na. Magkano na ba yung ginastos sa'yo nung mo? So, maggagawa ko ng graph. Yung isang x-axis ay money, tapos y is love. So, yun yung relationship niya. Ganon din sa pagpa-prioritize sa projects eh. The animal side has very negligible allocation of funds. The human side has almost $1 billion. You will not solve rabies if you do it that way. And that's One Health eh. You look at it equally. May tanong kanina, ano daw difference ng planetary health? Yung planetary health can be treated as a variant. Hindi siya One Health per se kasi ang focus ng planetary health more on the environment. yung One Health, they have to be treated on equal level. So sa planetary health, mas bias siya toward the environment to solve health issues. Parang ganon ang difference ng One Health sa planetary health. Ang nag-introduce si Dr. Renzo Ginto, PhD sa Harvard, yun yung PhD niya. Siya rin yung head ng One Health, next generation One Health. So yun yung mga core expertise related to that. So with that, that's just a very data-centric approach to One Health. We have a lot of neglected diseases. We are not allocating enough resources because we think humans are more important. But by doing so, we will not be able to address the issue. It will be a multi-billion problem because there are 1 million people getting beaten every year. We will not solve it using traditional methods. One Health is one way to deal with this. So I presented to you data, microbial resistance, one aspect because of intensification. And then we have One Health sa rabies, which presents us with interesting challenges. The challenges now sa atin is how do we deal with this with the One Health perspective. So I leave you with questions. Let's deal with the big questions so that we will have fulfilling careers. Thank you and have a good day.
All right. So thank you, Dr. Bandoy, for that very engaging and insightful talk. Personally ako, marami po ako natutunan and panigurado, excited na yung ating participants to ask their questions. Meron po ba tayo on site? Who wants to go first? Yes, sir. Microphone po for our participant.
Dr. Paul is the first PhD student sa history of VetMed. 100 years first. And the course we are handling is One Health in Vet Medicine. Kaya ito na yung klase natin for today. Hindi na tayo mag-meet later.
Yes po. Hi, good morning. I'm Paul Cardeño from the Graduate School. Doc, I'd like to get your comment regarding when organizing such forum about One Health. Is it imperative to have the perspective of medical practitioners? Because we have environmental scholar earlier and we have a veterinary scholar today, this moment. What will be your comment regarding that?
In my opinion, we have tried to package One Health because it's the in thing, it's the buzzword. But if we don't put a vet, a medical doctor, and an environmental or other field, it's like an IKEA Kire chair. Alam niyo yung Kire sa IKEA, yung tatluhan. Pag tinanggal mo yung isang leg nun, babagsak siya. Otherwise, it's not One Health. So there's a need for us to have their perspective because they are different, they have different priorities. They can contribute to us and they can we can contribute to them. Kaya nga gusto ko balikan yung course eh. Kasi parang One Health in Veterinary Medicine, it will be raw. There needs to be component where you have doctors and other perspective. Nagiging One Health lang siya because of the synergism. We really need them in order for us to break into the traditional mode. Pero it's imperative. We need them.
All right. So thank you, Dr. Bandoy. Do we have questions online? Not yet. Okay, so maybe I can ask a very timely question na I'm sure interested yung ating participants. Dr. Bandoy, should be worried about the current emergence of the Nipah virus? Does this virus have the capacity to force us again on another lockdown?
So, when the pandemic started, I calculated R. Familiar kayo sa term na R? Reproductive number. So, nung kinalculate ko yung R ng COVID-19 sa Pilipinas, it's 2.5 sa data ng DOH. So, on average, yung isang tao makaka-infect ng 2 o 3. Yung R ng Nipah virus is 0.4 to 0.7. So, it does not have that transmissible characteristic ng Nipah virus. Paano ba nagkakaroon ng Nipah virus? Galing sa bats. Yung mga bats umiihi doon sa mga sap ng fruit or sa fruits. Pag kinain mo ng raw, magkakaroon ka. So hugasan nyo siguro yung mga prutas. Hindi kasi niluluto yung prutas eh. There's no opportunity to kill the virus. Tapos sa India and Bangladesh, yung nahahawa, yung nag-aalaga in close proximity. Kasi natatalsikan sila ng mga urine, yung mga nag-handle sa ano. So ang R ng Nipah virus are 0.4 and 0.7. Kapag yung R hindi lalampas sa 1, hindi siya magiging 2, bumababa yung transmissibility. So yun yung unang sagot. Pangalawa, might not be a good thing to hear, the mortality is 40 to 70%. Ang case fatality ng COVID before the vaccine is 5. Sa area na kinapos sa mechanical ventilator, it's 14 Italy. Ano po kinalaman nun? Ganito. Pag hindi ka kasi pinapatay, mas nakakahawa ka. So, ibig sabihin, sa COVID, yung 10 na magkakaroon ng COVID, hindi kagad mamamatay, parang isa lang out of, kung 5% eh. So, mas isa out of 5 out of 100. Dito kasi, kung 10 yung nagkanipa, 4 or 7 yung mamamatay. Pag namatay sila, bawas ng kaagaw sa mana, pero hindi na matatransmit yon, mawawala ng ganun dynamics. Third, ano pa ba? Transmissibility, itong case fatality, kalimutan ko yung isa. Basta mababa yung probability niya. May isa pa akong factor na tinignan eh. Yun kasing Nipah virus tumatawid din sa baboy. Kaya sa Singapore, nung nagka-Nipah, may neurological, may respiratory manifestation, pinapatay ni Lee Kuan Yew lahat ng baboy. Gawa ng Nipah virus. So walang baboy sa Singapore, ini-import nila sa Malaysia. Dok, Muslim country ang Malaysia. Yes, but it's populated by 30% Chinese. Yung Chinese population nila, yung nag-e-export ng baboy sa sa Singapore. Muntik na tayo mag-export ng baboy sa Singapore. Muntik na. But kulang tayo sa mayroon silang good GMP eh. Hindi tayo naka-export gawa. May kulang tayo na requirement. Pero, yon, mayroon siyang dynamics na pwede siya sa baboy. That's the reason why 500,000 na baboy pinapatay ni Lee Kuan Yew sa Singapore because of that. And there's no more pig. So, ang tanong sa atin, meron ba tayong bats? Check. Meron ba tayong baboy? Check. Pero mababa yung probability because of the yung iniisip ko pa yung isa na hindi ko maalala, I'm getting old. But based on my analysis, it's very unlikely na maging walang gamot. Walang gamot, walang bakuna. Yun lang din yung niya. Walang gamot, walang bakuna. But because of naalala ko na. Wala siyang asymptomatic transmission. Yung kasing COVID can be transmitted 50% nung walang signs, walang ubo, pero na siya, walang asymptomatic. So, ibig sabihin, lahat ng nahawa sa Nipah virus, may obvious manifestation. Therefore, pag nakita mo na may ganun, parang delikado to, mas madali siyang i-control because of that. So, yun yung 3 reasons why I think hindi siya magiging pandemic kasi makikita mo kagad merong clear manifestation for that.
Okay, so ayan, medyo relief ba yun? Or medyo mas kinabahan tayo on that response from Dr. Bandoy. Do we have, all right, we have another question.
Salamat. Magandang tanghali po, Dr. Bandoy. Ako si Amen Letana, under the ASEAN Studies Program po dito sa OpenU. Under the advisement of Dr. Myra Oruga. Ang akin pong study ngayon ay Disaster Health Management sa ASEAN. And malaking bahagi nun ay One Health. Kaya po, nandito tayo ngayon. Ang tanong ko, sir, salamat po sa work na ginagawa nyo for One Health. And I am amazed at how sa panahon ngayon, although matagal na pong in discussion yung One Health, I think globally, medyo bago siya sa Pilipinas. Even may mga doktor po akong kaibigan na pag binabanggit ko yung One Health, medyo hindi sila familiar. So, salamat po, Doc. At sana matanggap nyo na ang mana nyo in the future. Ito na po ang ating bida-bida question, Doc. Sa tingin nyo po, how ready is ASEAN for One Health? Or siguro, let's zero in the Philippines. Or i-rephrase ko na lang po siguro yung question, ano yung pwedeng top 3 priorities ng Philippines para masabi na maging One Health ready tayo?
Ang hirap ng tanong ah. Can I call a friend? Ang marami tayong issue sa ASEAN eh. Baka nga isang araw hindi pa ako tapos eh. We have so many, for example, kasi tumataas yung population natin, kailangan natin kumain ng karne. Kayo ba, payag kayo, kanin lang ang pagkain nyo? Hindi, di ba? Magkakapatayan niya. Pag, ano. Di ba may mga tao pag gutom galit sila, no? So, hindi ko alam kung paano kalimbawa ngayon, may problema tayo sa bird flu. ASEAN problem yon kasi nagta-travel siya, bumababa siya. Pero yun yung classical One Health kasi pag nag-spill over siya ng konti sa tao, it's a big problem. Kaya kinakal natin. Pero, how do you monitor migratory birds sa Pilipinas? The cost. Itong mga tanong na to, lalabas lang siya kapag na-report lang sa media, may mga namatay. Pero we don't have that system in place talaga na active surveillance. Medyo passive surveillance siya sa parlance sa EPI. Kung may report lang, dun lang. Sa ASEAN, we need a structure for collaboration. That's one thing. Kasi yun yan sabi mo eh. Hindi alam ng mga doktor eh. I don't feel that human doctors and veterinarians are talking enough. That's one. Yun siguro yung mga, what can we do tomorrow? Mag-usap sila sa isang kwarto. May vet, may agriculturist. We need to talk together. Maybe that's the one thing, to create a framework. Kasi alam mo, kahit sa department, wala pang structure sa One Health eh. Wala siyang bahay na ano eh. We need structures for them to be, kahit nga sa DOH at BAI, may One Health initiative, pero I don't feel it's organic. Yung parang, may initiative, pero I don't feel that what should be done is being done because of the barriers between agencies. So I don't know what's the best framework for that. Pero yung unang step sa One Health, kailangan mag-usap-usap sila. Hindi on a superficial press release, pipirma ng ganito, maglalagay ng mga palm nila. Yung mga press release na gano'n, kailangan it has to be organic. Pero the current challenge now for me is that the structure is still fragmented. It's still quite fragmented. Unless we put them into one structure together, One Health will still be superficial. Ang example ko dito, pinagalingan kong school sa UC Davis. Kasi yung isa sa founder ng One Health, doon siya galing eh. Close yung interaction ng vet school at ng medicine eh. They're physically located. So, minsan, pag may kaso na may tatanggalin sa isang hayop, pwede sila mag-pull ng doktor kung walang expertise eh. Yun ang One Health for me. Parang wala nang boundary na kapag may problema sa hayop at although mataas yung level ng expertise sa UC Davis, pero I seen cases where there is a doctor working a veterinarian side by side. Yun yung One Health eh. Unless we will be able to see that type of interaction na may inooperahan isang hayop, may doktor sa operating table, yun na blur na yung classical boundaries ng medicine at ano. So yun for me, yung pinakaunang kailangan mangyari before other things. They need to be at the same table. Mga vets kasi may certain level of insecurity sa human doctors eh. So, I feel the hesitance in the field to work with them kasi feeling nila the voices would be diluted. We also need to address that. Everybody should be on the same. So may mga barriers for that structurally. And then inbuilt sa mga professions. That's why professions are siloed and we don't interact with one another. Hopefully, OpenU will open opportunities for that. My future home, joke. Ganda ng facilities ng OpenU. Mga camera namin, mga gawa-gawa lang. Parang feeling, may kumalat na meme before, bakit ka umalis sa ABS-CBN? Parang ganito, makakasagot na ako. Feeling ko artista na may malalaking camera. Napufulfill yung aking Ang TV, frustrations, hindi ako nakasali sa Ang TV. Pero ang frustration daw ni Bea Alonso, hindi siya nakagraduate ng college. So I empathize with her. Hindi ko natuloy yung showbiz career ko.
All right. So thank you, Dr. Bandoy, and to everyone who sent in their questions. We will take note of them, and likewise, we will relay it to Dr. Bandoy. At this point, may we call on again our program hosts, Dr. Myra Oruga and Dr. Ricardo Bagarinao, to award the certificate and token of appreciation to our resource speaker. Please allow me to read the citation. University of the Philippines Open University Faculty of Management and Development Studies awards the Certificate of Appreciation to DJ Darwin Bandoy as a guest speaker in the Let's Talk It Over event titled One Health, One ASEAN, Unifying Health for People, Animals, and Ecosystems, held on September 29, 2023 at the UP Open University, Los Baños, Laguna, signed by Dean Joan V. Serrano. Once again, let's all give a warm round of applause to our speaker, Dr. DJ Darwin Bandoy. Thank you very much, sir. All right, there you have it. So before we close and end this program, may we request Dr. Myra Oruga to deliver her closing remarks.
Ayan, nag-isip tuloy ako kung kakain pa ako ng karne. Favorite ko pa naman ang spam. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guest speakers, advocates of One Health, One ASEAN. As we draw the curtains on this enlightening and transformative event, it is with immense gratitude that I address you all. One Health, One ASEAN, unifying health for people, animals, and ecosystem, has been more than just gathering of minds. It has been a testament to our shared commitment to safeguarding the intricate web of life that sustains us all. Throughout our discussion and exchanges, we have explored the interconnectedness of human, animal, and environmental health. We have delved into the challenges we face, from zoonotic disease outbreaks to habitat destruction, and we have unveiled opportunities for cooperation and innovations that can shape a brighter future for our region. As we depart from this platform, let us carry with us the spirit of unity and collaborations that defines the ASEAN community. Let us remember that our actions, no matter how small, ripple through the fabric of our ecosystems and impact the health and well-being of all living beings. The power to effect positive change lies within each of us, and together we can forge a path towards a healthier, more resilient ASEAN. I encourage you all to take the knowledge, insights, and inspiration gained from this talk and channel them into action. Let us advocate for policies that prioritize One Health principles. Let us engage in interdisciplinary partnership, and let us educate and empower our communities to make informed choices that benefit both people and the environment. In closing, I want to express my gratitude to Dr. Bagarinao, the ASEAN Program Chair, as well as our Dean, who is in Bangkok right now, Dean Joan Serrano, for the opportunity, okay, to discuss this very important topic. And all the participants who made this event resounding success. The journey towards One Health in ASEAN is ongoing, and with our unwavering dedication, we can create a future where the health of people, animals, and ecosystem thrives in harmonious balance. Again, thank you all. In unity for the health of all, let us stand as one, heed the call for people, animals, ecosystem worth. One Health, One ASEAN, a harmonious earth. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat.
Right, so thank you, Doc Mai, for that closing remarks. And that concludes our program. Please stay tuned for more updates because the program host for our next LTIO is none other than the Master of Public Management on October 23, 2023. Meanwhile, The evaluation link is currently flashed on screen. Please accomplish the evaluation form until tomorrow. This will be the basis for the issuance of your e-certificates. We will also have a photo op after the closing billboard. So to our Zoom participants, please stay for a while and join us for a photo opportunity. Once again, I am Janelle Ebron. This has been Let's Talk It Over Series Hybrid Seminar. One Health, One ASEAN, Unifying Health for People, Animals, and Ecosystems. Thank you very much and have a great day.